Okay, y'all, I've done this video a few times already, and I keep trying to make it shorter. I have, if I'm lucky, 10 minutes to do a final version of this thing, whatever it is, and before the baby wakes up. So we really are going to try to get through this one. Otherwise, I'll be coming back to it. Shout out, first and foremost, to Chelsea Handler, who did her Hey Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea Netflix special. It reminded me of something that I think I probably knew very minutely, but not on such a grand scale, that the conversation that we need to be having is not asking our black friends only, what can we do to be better, but rather to be talking first and foremost to white people. This is a white person to white person conversation. And I don't want to be complacent and not say anything because I'm scared that I'm going to come across uneducated, or I'm scared that, maybe I'll lose some friends over it or something like that. The truth of the matter is that as we see time and time again, I just don't want to be on the wrong side of this history, right? And maybe there's not a right or wrong, but in my eyes, it seems pretty clear, right? My very young, naive eyes. So, with that said, I want to start off by saying I am that white person. I am that white person that benefited from white privilege growing up. I was adopted by a white couple, both educated, an attorney who was a PI attorney, a medical malpractice attorney, who taught me very early on that the minority are not well taken care of. And so this is a conversation that started with the McDonald's lady. We all know the McDonald's lady. She spilled a cup of coffee on her lap and she got millions. And everybody always criticized my dad and my family, like, he's that guy, he's an ambulance chaser. But my dad taught me early that actually she had skin grafts, and that every day when she goes to the restroom, when she takes a shower, when she goes swimming, when she is intimate with someone, she is reminded that somewhere along the line, someone was not paying attention and there were no policies or procedures for temperature control on coffee at the time. And because of that, she will pay the price every single day the rest of her life. So time and time again, after case after case after case, hospitals that had policies that weren't well written or people who weren't trained good enough. At one point, I finally asked my dad, why do you why are these people so upset about you getting millions, and why do you get millions? And his response was, the only way that big corporations or hospitals or McDonald's and people like that, companies like that, are going to pay attention and make change is when you hit it where it hurts, in their pocketbook. And so it dawned on me, like, oh my God, that's why you have to get millions. It's not because her life isn't worth millions. It's because in order for McDonald's to make change, or any of these other companies to make change, we're going to have to speak their language. And that's money, right? So, on a much larger scale, we start talking about racism, right, as a whole, because that's what's going on in our world right now and has been for a long time. But because our stores are getting broken into and our streets don't look so safe anymore, and because we're scared for our safety for the first time ever, white people, we actually might listen, right? And so this video is not for the black person, because they already know what I'm talking about. This video is not for people, I have my notes. Video is not for people who have already began the process of understanding their own privilege or lack thereof, or for people who understand the world that they were born into in America, right? This video is for people who say things flippantly like all lives matter, or like, well, I had struggles too growing up. I'm white, but I got out, right? Or like, y'all had a black president. You obviously have an example of what to do. Things like that, when you say things like that, you sound uneducated, okay? When you say things like, she only had coffee spilled in her lap, you sound uneducated, okay? My girlfriend, Crystal, has been a very long time girlfriend to me since junior high, and she posted something asking black people for their opinion on what they need. And a couple answered, and then she went on this very long tangent. And if you care, you can always, try to find her in friends and do all of that. But the bottom line is, it invoked this response from me that said, actually, I don't think Crystal and I have ever had a very intentional conversation about why we disagree so strongly on systemic racism in America specifically. Like, let's just really get down nitty gritty to it. And part of that is because, again, I'm so scared I'm going to come across like an idiot. And it doesn't matter if she spews rhetoric and falsified, things, as long as I'm not the one that sounds stupid. So it's okay if I sound stupid right now. I'm hoping I don't, but if I do, that's okay, because this is my leap of faith into at least doing what I can to show my daughter one day when she watches this. Hopefully, maybe she won't care. She's not going to care. But when I show somebody someday, one child or grandchild, that it is important to keep this conversation going. And it's not one conversation, it is more and more and more. So I'm that white person. Don't forget, I'm that white person. I work in an urban school, but then I drive an hour commute to my safe little white neighborhood where I don't worry about the police. I don't worry about my children playing in my yard. I don't worry about them finding things in the street that they shouldn't, or seeing things that are terrible. We don't worry about poverty. We weren't impacted significantly by COVID so far. I'm sure we will later on down the road, but as of right now, our family directly has not been impacted significantly. So I am that white person. I am privileged to the maximum capacity. If you are concerned that maybe there's not systemic racism in the world, that, those black people, those black men, those 1 in 3 black men, they sure make bad choices. You need to begin the search online and not just on blogs and stuff like that, right? Like, we always want to try to get reputable sources, and people like Crystal will say things like, the media spews things and all of that. But I encourage you to look at numbers, right? And I encourage you to look at the numbers of people incarcerated in the United States. And there is a wonderful website that I'm going to include in this post that talks specifically about, God, I wish I had written that down, but it talks specifically about why it is such an issue for us to continue this path of ignoring how the justice system is not blind, and how, in fact, it starts at the first frisk and search. It starts at the first pull over, that this like ripple effect begins to happen, right? So let's pretend that all other racism isn't there, right? None of that even exists. But if you look at the numbers of incarcerated people of color, specifically black men, and black women, then you begin to ask yourself, like, are they just like worse? Like, is there something magical about black men that they are just like worse inherently? Were they born bad? Is that what's going on? And then you say to yourself, like, how is it that they may make up what is it? I'm gonna blow, I don't know what the statistics is, but like 15% of the population in America, but they make up like 57% of people incarcerated. Are they that much worse than their white counterparts? Like, what's going on if there's not like a natural reflection of our population, right? There should be, if logic serves us, there should be like a reflection of the population in the US that should be reflected in the population incarcerated, right? But it doesn't work that way, because when we incarcerate a particular community at large, we see that they begin being impoverished, which means higher incidences of drug and alcohol use, higher incidences of violence, higher incidences of domestic violence, early pregnancies, like everything negative that is in our world, in America, begins with this idea of poverty. And I don't know about you, but without my husband's income, I would not be as well off. I would not be able to make dinner for my children at night. I wouldn't be able to have a nanny during quarantine to make sure that I still have time to do my freaking job. The domino effect of even just one incarcerated parent in that one life goes beyond our understanding, right? A child raised without their father, much less an entire community raised without fathers, plural, and brothers and uncles, much less generations raised without these people. My job as a parent is to try to teach my children as much as I possibly can. What happens when I'm the only parent teaching them? My husband constantly is saying, that's a little too far, Brandy. Maybe you don't need to share all of that with Via, right? The rest needs to learn this from me, right? He has all of these balances and these accountabilities and these checks that I don't have. What happens to generations of children who don't receive co-parenting or dual incomes or generational wealth, or even just help logging in to Brookhaven Community College so that they can actually start this path of education? I don't know where I was going with that. I just want us to not be so fixated on the idea that we are always right. It is important to me as a human being to always consider that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't this going on in the world, right? So, to those people who keep saying all lives matter, to those people who are intentionally trying to discourage the conversation, hear this. We, on the other side of this, do not need to be told to have white guilt. If you have done your homework, you already have it. And if you haven't, then you don't think you deserve it and that you are entitled to that, right? I am sitting, again, I'm that white person. I am sitting literally on the freaking mountain range where America the Beautiful was written. America is beautiful. And we can be so much more. We need to be a brotherhood. And if you think that you are colorblind, or you think that it's okay to ignore cultural awarenesses and statistics, then I encourage you to call me. And I encourage you to FaceTime me, because I want to talk to you about this. And I want to know what you really think. And I want to know how it is I came to this conclusion and you have yet to. Because I make this face a lot when I'm reading some of y'all's posts. Right? We are beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for ember waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I do love you all, and I want us to be together on this, but I'm gonna keep talking, and I'm gonna keep singing like a crazy person, and I'm gonna keep pushing back when I think maybe, just maybe, we're missing something. I love you. Be safe. And call me.